knows what today's talk title is? It's called, what did I hear? Stand strong. Standing strong. Good job. Yes, it's about standing strong. So how many of you feel that we are living in a crazy world? Yeah, right? I mean, we have global ecological crisis on hand. We have, that goes along with the raging fires, drought. How about the landslides in New Guinea? We have earthquakes. We have tornadoes, devastating places. We have rains, torrential rains. We have hurricanes. Then we have wars. We have ever-increasing violence and shootings. We have politics, which is beyond, out there. And at times, it's just, political unrest. And then we also have our personal things, right? Challenges, like perhaps health challenges or economic or financial concerns. Perhaps we have relationship challenges. There's so much. And here's the question: how do we stand strong amongst the storms of life, the winds that can so easily, the wind of a tornado or hurricane can just pull you right in and blow you away? How do we stand strong? That is what we're going to be talking about today. And so I'm going to share with you a story that most of you have heard and I've shared before, but I'm going to do it before I actually read the story. This time Liz is going to just tell the story, right? And it's from the Bible, and it's a story that you're probably familiar with. It's called David and... Very good. So, back a long, long, long time ago, in a foreign land, there were these two countries, not like today, the Israelites, they're still having fights. I mean, it's like forever. And then we had the Philistines. And these two countries of people are getting ready for battle. There's two big hills, and they're ready to come together and battle for the land as they do. And there was this one Philistine who was a giant. He was about 10 feet tall. I don't know how much he weighed, but I'm sure he was very impressive. And he was a major warrior, bully. He just came down into the valley and he just said, "Hey, you send one of your people out here to fight me, and if they beat me, guess what? We will surrender." Well, he was intimidating. He was scary. The Israelites were like, "No way," because it's sure death to go against this giant of a beast, of a man who's going to just take anyone down. So they're all shaking in their boots and going, we're not going there. Now, there's this little boy, young boy, who is too small and too young to be in the army of the Israelites, but he brings food for his brothers. And he hears this giant, ranting giant of a man who's yelling, "Come on, you scaredy cats, can't you come in here and fight me? You're a chicken," right, all that. And David's like, "I'll take him on." And everybody said, "No, you're not going there. David, you're out of your mind. You can't fight that giant. You'd be slaughtered in a half a second. That isn't happening." Well, David was persistent. He wasn't going to give up. He's like, "No, I'm going to fight, and take me to King Saul so that I can talk to King Saul and get his permission." So finally they relented and brought him to King Saul, and Saul's like, "David, David, David. Honey, no, you can't go there. This isn't happening. You're too young, too small. This is a vicious warrior. Your life will be ended before you even step onto the battlefield. Well, I'll tell you, David had made up his mind. He was going to do this. So he persisted and persisted. And finally, Saul reluctantly said, okay, fine. It's going to be the death of you, but I'm going to help you out. I'm going to give you my armor. So he puts him into his armor. Well, the armor is so big and heavy that David can't even walk in it. So he takes that off, and he's like, no. He's going out in just his shepherd outfit, because he was a shepherd, and he picks up his sling, because he's got a slingshot, and he picks up 5 small stones from the riverbed. And he goes out, and Goliath sees him coming, this little scrawny kid, and starts to laugh. Are you kidding me? What are you doing? You think I'm a dog? You can come at me with a stick? What? That's a joke. You can't even, what? This is a joke. And David's like, well, you have a javelin and a spear, but I come to you in the name of the Lord. And today, the Lord will deliver you to me, and I will cut off your head. And I'm sure Goliath is just rolling with laughter. You've got to be kidding me. This little punk kid's that's not even happening. Well, at that moment, David takes his sling, puts a smooth stone in it, whirls it around, and he hits the giant Goliath right smack in the middle of the forehead. The stone goes into his head. He falls over. David runs over, takes the giant's sword, chops off his head. At this point, the Philistines are like, oh my God, we're out of here. And so they take off, and voila, the Israelites win the battle. Yippee-doo. You like Liz's version? Figured it might be a little more entertaining than reading a story, which we all know. So as most of you know, that we have been doing a study in Unity. Every month, we look at one of the 12 powers. There's these 12 powers or abilities, spiritual abilities, that the disciples, Jesus' disciples, have. And Charles Fillmore, who is the co-founder of Unity, he studied the Bible from a metaphysical viewpoint, believing that every person, place, and situation was part of ourselves. So he looked at the disciples. He said, each of them demonstrate a different strength, power, or spiritual ability, which we all have. We were born with these, but we just don't know it. So we have these powers, the power of imagination and love and will, and I can't even remember the rest of them, but we're studying one of them, right? We've studied a few of them already. So which, for those of you who know the 12 powers, I'm still learning them myself, does anyone guess at which of the powers would be most prominent in that David and Goliath story? Strength. Bing. It is strength. Absolutely. So it's the power of strength. Now, strength is in 3 different dimensions. There's physical strength. That's the power to endure, to persist, to be able to lift things, to move things physically. Then we have, and it's endurance and just being able to, we have the Olympics coming up. There's a lot of physical strength there. But there's also mental strength, and all of these strengths, these 3 are intertwined. So you can't just have physical strength. You need that mental strength that is going to be the quality of mind that enables one to accomplish, to follow through, to hold firm to principles that one believes in. And the third one is spiritual strength. Now, most of you have heard of this book, and you all have it, and you read it on a regular basis, right? Just go ahead. Yeah. Amuse me. Divine Audacity by Linda Martella-Whitsett. This is a study of the 12 powers, easy to understand. She takes each of the 12 powers and she breaks them down into 3 components. Her definition of spiritual strength. Spiritual strength is our capacity to stand undaunted in the midst of shifting circumstances, to act courageously, and to stay the course. I love that definition because it really just nails what spiritual strength is. It's to be stable, courageous, and to persist with tenacity. So I'm going to share with you her first area, and that is stability. And what she says about stability. To be stable is to be rooted in or anchored to a firm foundation. The stabilizing power of strength is our capacity to anchor ourselves securely in the truth of our unlimited source of calm, safety, and balance. We can stand strong in the times of change. Strength is our power of standability. She goes on to talk about, and this was something I had never realized, because the stabilizing power of strength isn't just sturdiness, but it includes flexibility. Flexibility, right? The soft and supple are the companions of life, while the stiff and unyielding are the components of death. The Tao points to this truth. Rigidity is not consistent with the power of strength. Successful application of strength allows for firm resolve in the truth we know, as well as flexibility to respond to situations presenting themselves from moment to moment. You know, a tree that is super rigid and doesn't bend is going to break when that wind hits it. There needs to be the flexibility in that tree, but it needs to also be very rooted. So, it's about being rooted and stable. Spiritual strength is to realize that we are God beings, that we are the God beings, and that spirit is everywhere. And it is being so convinced of the truth of our nature that when you're convinced, you can relax and you can trust that the universe and good is going to prevail. To trust means to rely upon spirit totally. That is the acronym. To rely upon spirit totally. See, David didn't believe in everything else that everybody else was saying. He knew spirit as his source. That spirit, he had the faith and the trust, and he went, we can win this. I'm not backing down. I can stand in this. But he was rooted like a tree in what? He was rooted in principles, truth principles. What is a principle? A principle is something that works all the time, everywhere, for everyone. It's nothing, can never change. A principle is solid. We have laws, we have principles, and to know what those principles are. Unity Santa Fe has 5 principles. Who knows what the first one is? It's God is, Spirit is, whatever name you call it. The divine is all there is. Number 2 is what? I am. So Spirit, the divine, being everywhere present as all that is, also is me. We are actually incarnated expressions of Spirit, unique individualized expressions of the divine. That is the truth of who we are. We just don't know that. Number 3 is we create by how we think. We create by our thoughts, infused with our feelings and our beliefs. It's done unto you as you. That is a principle. Number 4 is we pray and affirm truth. We don't get caught up in the illusions and the fears and the doubts and the worries. We claim truth. And number 5 principle is when we live the first 4 principles. Okay? So the question is, where are you planted? What are you planted in? Are you planted in the sands of fear, that when the winds blow, that you get thrown off? Perhaps you do. Perhaps your roots need to grow a little deeper, right? So we're going to go back to the David and Goliath story to see how David demonstrates to us. And we're looking at the metaphysical view of this story. Linda Martilla-Whitsett says the metaphysical interpretation is a deeper look, a personal look at the characters and details of a story. In metaphysical interpretation, each character represents an aspect of our own consciousness. So, what is the Goliath? The Goliath that we all have are our fears, our challenges. We all have challenges, yes? Anybody have fears to go with those challenges? Now we're talking, that's what the Goliath is. The Goliath in life are our financial challenges, the political unrest, our fears, our doubts, our worries. There's Goliaths everywhere. The question is, when the winds of the Goliath come barreling at you and yelling at you, what do you do? Do you fall over? Do you run away? Or how can you rise up into your David self? You have a David self. Maybe you didn't know that. But this is what we're here to learn today. So, who is David? David is the young man who has not been contaminated by fear. He hasn't been contaminated by the fear of the fear-based consciousness of his brothers and the other Israelites. He's been out in nature. He hasn't bought into and been conditioned to think from fear-based thinking. He is still innocent and pure, and he hasn't caught up with all that fear-based. He's tapped into the tap roots of a tree. He's rooted in truth, and he's rooted in trust, truth and trust. So within every one of us, there is a potential David self. Would you like to know how you can develop and live from your David self more? Yes. What? Yes. Okay. Because the David inside of you can slay the Goliaths. And I'm going to show you what that means and tell you. Because the Goliaths don't live outside of us. They live right here. Your Goliath is in your mind. So to develop our David selves, first of all, spend more time in nature, right? Just be in nature. That is the world it was and is so beautiful and natural and easy and in harmony. Avoid the crowds and those with limiting, negative, fear-based beliefs, okay? Don't spend a lot of time watching TV. That'll just pull you right in. That's a tornado. It'll take your mind. You can be aware of what's going on, but you don't have to stay with it. So you're avoiding those limiting people. You want to guard your sheep. Guard your sheep. What are the sheep? Your sheep are the thoughts in your mind, okay? Sheep means your thoughts that are wandering about, okay? You are the shepherd of your thoughts. Emerson says, stand guard at the portal of your mind, okay? To guard your thoughts. When a fear-based thought comes in, you could invite it in for coffee and tea, and then it's going to turn into a Goliath. Or you can go, I'm not opening the door to that. Guard your thoughts. Guard the sheep of your thoughts. Don't let them in. Number 4, stay true to what you know. He didn't need the armor of Saul. He needed the armor of faith. The armor of faith to know that I have a power greater in me that is my armor, that protects me no matter where I am. To be so convinced of that. And number 5, to be your David self, we want to take down the fear-based thoughts of our Goliath with stones of truth. Jesus, the great way shower, when he was out in the wilderness getting tempted, every time he had a temptation was only a thought that was taking him off the truth. He came back with a truth. He came back with truth. Truth will always bring you back home. I'm going to read this piece to you because I thought it was beautifully written. It only took one stone to do the seemingly impossible job on the giant. The stone sank into the forehead of the giant. The forehead is the symbol of the imagination. That is where many human giants are located, the many misconceptions that we hold in our mind. The giant is our vision, human vision of life, our negative thinking. It is not the person who is making your life miserable. It is not the job or lack of one. It's not anything outside of us. Goliath lives inside of us in our imagination. The Goliath is our big negative thought about the outer things in our lives. Knowing this, we don't have to struggle and battle with people and things. All we have to do is defeat the imaginary giant that we think is so real. Here's a line for you. How we relate to the issue is the issue. University of Santa Monica. How we relate to the issue is the issue. Something disturbs you. It's not the thing. It's how you're relating to the thing that is the issue. Ooh, I'm going to take responsibility. If there is lack in our lives, we must get rid of the giant that believes in lack. The truth is, no one can make you unhappy or keep your good from you. Only the misconception, the big giant of lack and limitation can do that. The truth accepted in consciousness changes all situations. It may not happen overnight, but we can defeat all the Goliaths that come into the scene of our minds. We, like David, might have many battles with fears and other wild human thoughts, but these battles strengthen us. They strengthen our trust in the power and presence of the divine within us. We must have absolute honesty in working principle, a willingness to surrender and trust Spirit in a way that never has before. We must cut off the giant's head. We must eliminate the negative belief at the source, in the head, in the imagination. It does not take a lot of equipment in the outer to change our lives or metaphysical formulas. All it takes is a simple trust in Spirit, the divine within us and as us. Grounded in truth principles. You might wonder, what is a truth principle? It's something that never changes. An example for me is, ever think the thought, that's impossible? Okay, come on. Yeah, there's things, that's impossible. Well, whenever I have that inkling of a thought, my statement of truth is, with God, all things are possible. Say that with me. With God, all things are possible. As soon as I say that, there's no argument because it's a statement of truth, and that big, giant balloon of Goliath is like being shot, and it dissolves and it deflates. A word of truth will deflate any Goliath. To get anchored in truth principles, Read the book, The Five Principles. Get steeped in it. The other truth statement that works for me is the statement, the divine within me is far greater than any person, place, situation, fear, doubt, or worry. I want you to repeat this after me. The divine within me is far greater than any person, situation, condition, fear, doubt, or worry. That's the truth. And so it is. So, you know what you need to do to rise up into your David selves, to defeat the Goliath in your mind. Now, that is the power of spiritual strength. You can also see one of our prayer practitioners, because what you don't know about a prayer practitioner is perhaps that they are trained in seeing beyond the condition to stating the truth of and for you and your situation. Do we have any prayer practitioners who will be available after the service to pray with anyone? Please stand up so we can acknowledge your presence. Okay, we have these two divine ones that will be in the sanctuary. You can do that with them after the service. In the cyber sanctuary, you can contact and write down your phone number as well in the chat, because they will see and know the truth of and for you. And by the way, in case you didn't know, we have monthly calls with a prayer practitioner. You can put your name down or send me an email and say, I would like a monthly call, so I can have somebody who's going to be anchored in the truth when my world is like this, in a storm. Spiritual truth doesn't mean we go alone in the world. There was a little boy who was trying very hard to pick up a stone. And his dad said, are you using all your strength? And the little boy went, well, yes, I am. And the father says, no, you're not. You haven't asked for help. It doesn't mean go it alone. We, like a redwood tree. Redwood trees do not have deep roots. They have roots that are very shallow. They're the biggest and strongest trees. But what they do is their roots tap in and tie and intertwine with each other like a community. We hold each other up in the winds of the storm. Let us stand strong. Let us be the David self. This world is crazy, and I'm okay with it because I know how to anchor myself, root myself in the truth, and trust that Spirit is far greater. The Spirit within us is far greater. And so it is.